Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for hopping on today's webinar. This is Jeff Phillips. I'm with College Frog, and we want to thank you for being a part of California Meet the Firms Week. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much to Cal CPA, who has been our co-sponsor in putting on California's Meet the Firms Week. And it's been a lot of fun getting to put this on just for the state of California. So we really appreciate their help, all the firms that have signed up, and all the students and recent grads who've signed up. A little bit about what California Meet the Firms Week is. Really, for you as a job seeker, as a student, it involves two things. One, webinars all week. It's designed to help you get the most out of your career search and your understanding your future opportunities. Tomorrow we're going to have a webinar on just guiding your career, making your career plan, and that's with a recruiter at Armanino, who is the largest privately owned firm in the state. Then on Friday we're going to have a session with Cal CPA talking about making the most of your Cal CPA membership, which there are a ton of benefits if you're not aware, including ways to help you find jobs, education, connect with other CPAs, prepare for the CPA, licensing requirements. Phenomenal opportunity to learn about that as well. The other main benefit is we're going to send your profile and your resume to all of the firms in California who registered for the event. So if you haven't done so yet, go to calcpa.meetthefirmsweek.com. That's calcpa.meetthefirmsweek.com. We're there. You can register for the event officially. You can find the other webinars, and when you register for the event, you'll be led to College Frog, where you can build an online profile. And so your resume and your profile will be distributed to the firms next week. So let's talk about today. Very timely topic, and very topical and very important. I'm a former recruiter. Sarah, our presenter, is a recruiter. And let me tell you, the time that a recruiter spends reviewing your resume is less than you think. It's probably, I don't know what Sarah will tell you, but it's probably around 30 seconds, maybe a minute. So what you put on that counts. What you put on that could be the difference between getting an interview with the firm that you're looking to work for or not. And so that's why this stuff's important. So we are so lucky to have Sarah Clifford join our call today. Let me tell you about Sarah. So Sarah's a senior recruiter. She's a CPA. She's a senior recruiter at Connor Group, which is a finance and accounting recruiting company. She'll tell you a little bit more about herself, but she has a world of knowledge as an accountant and as a recruiter, so you're going to want to listen. Lastly, I know you're all going to have questions, and it's important that you ask questions so that Sarah can give you the best advice possible. Let me show you how to do that. You've got a big box in your control panel, and on that panel you can enter, we call it your question box. We're going to test that real quick. What I'd like you to do is tell me what college you attend or what college you graduated from. Press it in that in your question box and hit send or enter, and that way I'll know that you can hear me and that we've got colleges. There we go. Shabbat, Cal State, National, Ashford, Santa Barbara, Berkeley, University of San Francisco, Cal State Fullerton, Western Governors University, California State Stanislaus, DeVry, American River College in Sacramento, FSU. Wow, Florida State, you're in my neck of the woods. UC Davis, San Francisco State, Cal State University Northridge. A lot of cool schools, almost all California. Thank you for, we got an MBA from Thunderbird, an awesome program. Cal State East Bay. Thank you guys for joining and for doing that. So the question and answers work. I hope you'll ask good questions. I'm going to now turn it over to Sarah. Sarah, it's all yours. Can't wait to hear what you have to say, and thank you so much for being a part of this today.
Hi guys, my name is Sarah Clifford. I'm a financial recruiter out here in San Francisco covering the Bay Area. I graduated from UC Santa Barbara with an accounting degree. I interned and started in the assurance practice with PricewaterhouseCoopers, when I was actually also really involved in college recruiting at the time. I made the transition into recruitment afterwards, and I've been doing recruiting for the past 2 years. I've worked with many of the companies out here, from startups to big corporations, and I kind of put this together, which is basically a workshop of all my best advice that I've seen over the last few years. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them at the end of this presentation. And you can also find a copy of the presentation on my LinkedIn profile, which you can just find by searching my name. So we're going to get started. Basic formatting. Length, you should definitely be, it should be 1 page. If you have maybe 10 years of experience, you might have 2, but definitely want to keep it to 1 page. Font size, you want nothing smaller than size 9. You can use 2 different sizes if you want, but I would definitely stick with sizes between 9 and 12 point. Fonts, no more than 2. Font style, you can use bold or underlined titles as needed. Some of the top qualities the hiring managers are looking for. They're looking for individual accomplishments, interpersonal skills, knowledge of the company that you're interviewing with, motivation for change, technical relevant skills, and culture fit for the environment of the company. You want to use your resume to show all of these, because this will make you stand out compared to your competition. Font style, again, bold or underlined titles is needed. Page margins, no smaller than 0.75 inch on each side. That's very important because sometimes when they go through the systems internally, they can come out a little bit strange. Paragraph borders, you can use these if you want to break up certain sections. Page layout, indentation and spacing, you want to make sure it's consistent throughout the entire document. Here's an example. Here's the resume, name at the top, contact information directly under the name, objective, this is not required. Typically people only use this when they're targeting one specific role. I usually advise people not to use this because sometimes resumes get passed around, and if you're saying in the objective of one of your resumes that you want this specific job, and then in another one that gets passed around, it's a different objective, it just doesn't look very good, so I tell people generally not to use that. Instead, maybe have a cover letter. Afterwards, education, experience, and then honors and activities at the bottom. Layout. So the basic structure, you can either have a chronological resume or you can have a functional resume where you basically are showing different skill sets. I would say most hiring managers definitely want chronological. There are 2 formats for this. If you have been in the workforce for a while, 2 years out of college and onwards, I would say you want to start with your experience and then education, computer skills, interests, and activities at the bottom. If you're entry level, this is your first job out of college, which most of you, this is probably most of you guys, recent graduates. If you lack a certain work experience, then you want to start with your education versus experience. Then you follow up with experience, computer skills, interests, and activities. For the header, you want to follow this through on all of the pages. Full name, address, cell phone number, email, and a lot of people nowadays are including their LinkedIn address. Your LinkedIn profile is huge. Recruiters are looking at this every day. I probably spend 75% of my time in my job looking on LinkedIn. It's an amazing resource, and all of your resume information should be on there. This is an example here for Sue Smith. It's one way you can lay out this header. Here are 2 more examples. Here you can see the borders that these people have used. Again, there's different formats. It's totally up to you. It is important to be able to fit all of that information on one page. People do tend to do slightly variances in this area. Next up, you'll have your objective or summary of qualifications. Again, this is not needed. I typically, I advise people who are at the controller, senior manager level that they might want to have a summary, but you really don't need this. Again, you never know who is going to be seeing your resume, who's going to be passing it around. You don't want an objective to be on there that's targeting Apple versus Google, or a senior financial analyst position versus senior accountant position. It's better to have one document that you can send to everyone and anyone, and to have a tailored cover letter directed towards the company and position that you are applying for. Next area, education. For your college, you want to include any organizations you were involved in. You would like to also list any officer positions, honor classes, additional coursework or certificates you may have worked on, any sports teams you were on, if you studied abroad. Also, it's very important to include your GPA, your graduation month and year. A lot of people don't know that you should be putting that in. It's definitely very important. For post-undergrad, if you have any additional coursework, any certificates, your MBA, definitely include that in the same education area. For your next section, which will be experience, reverse chronological, here you want to list your most recent jobs first, followed by your previous position. So the first one should be listed, should be your current job or any current internship you may have participated in. For each job and internship, you want to include the company name, the title, the group you were in, the location, the dates of employment, including months, and you always want to have this on the far right side. Under each location, or each job, you want to have a bunch of bullets listing exactly what you did and what you accomplished in each experience. If you had multiple roles within a company, you want to list both or the multiple roles or internships under the same company name. And you also want to show when you were promoted. That's a great thing. Next up, I'm going to show you guys a few different examples of a few different various layout options. You can choose one that you find visually pleasing and also that allows you to fit all of your information on one page. Don't undervalue achievements outside of your main field. So if you did an internship with one of the big accounting firms, example PwC, you may be involved in a special project, you got to go abroad for something, include all of this because it just makes you more marketable and it makes you stand out versus another candidate who has the exact same experience as you. Here are two examples of how you can lay out your experience. The first one, we have one bullet listed, but it's just to kind of show you the different ways that you can kind of bold or underline areas. Again, under both of these examples, we have all the information listed. The second one I've included that I was in the assurance group. That can be very important. On the right side, you can see I have the full date listed that I was with PricewaterhouseCoopers, months included. Here are two more examples. I really like this, the fourth one, so the one for Netflix at the bottom of the page. Here, this person had a senior corporate accountant position and then they were promoted to a content accounting manager position. This is a great way to show a promotion. Again, it's under the same company, Netflix. You can kind of see how it's shown visually here. Some advice on your bullet points. When you're listing your bullets for jobs and experiences, try to show how you gave value to an organization or a company over just plain old job descriptions. Typically, when you're pretty young in experience and you maybe just had a few internships, you're going to have the exact same job descriptions as everyone else that is applying for these jobs. So you want to really pull out ways that you gave value to the company and things that you accomplished or things that made you stand out from other people. Whenever possible, you want to quantify in terms of number or in money terms what you actually did. Maybe show how you helped them grow in revenue, help them save money. You want to list numbers whenever you can. You also want to focus in these bullet points on your accomplishments. What made you stand out from the other accountants? Highlight specific examples of past successes. Did you improve any processes or help implement a new system? Did you win any awards or any recommendations? Take on any special projects? What did you specifically accomplish that was special, unique, different, or distinct? Why did you stand out? Why did you create something new? And again, any special projects or opportunities that you worked on. Again, you don't have to have job descriptions under these past job internships. You really want to focus on what you actually accomplished. You also want to start each bullet with an action verb. You never want to use first or third person. You typically want to use past tense for all past jobs, present tense for all of your present projects and jobs. Remember, these are bullet points, not complete sentences. Again, this is to get you to have your resume to be only one page. You want to rid little simple words such as a, an, or the. They're not needed. You want to keep everything as compact as possible. Focus on describing past job activities that highlight the skills you're most likely to use and want to use in your next job. So if you're applying for a financial analyst position, make sure that you're putting bullet points that target the financial analyst job description. finding keywords to use. I have a lot of people ask me, where, like, they know what they did in an internship or a prior job, but they don't know where to kind of, how to word it, I guess you could say. There's many resources online that you can find that can be helpful. Help wanted ads, often they have, they highlight different job skills and competencies. You can copy and paste those over. You can Google certain job descriptions, ask employers, or check their websites. You can use online search engines. You can simply look at accountant job descriptions, and you'll come up with lots of different samples that you can copy over and tailor to your own experience. The Occupational Online Handbook and the Dictionary of Occupational Titles, published by the U.S. Department of Labor, are both online and available to use to get examples. Trade magazines have lots of wording and examples you can use. Different programs for industry conferences and events have examples as well. Going on to the next section, computer and technical skills. Here you want to list any programs or software that you have had experience with. I know most of you guys are students right now and you might not have too much of this, but if you do, it definitely makes you stand out. And for general software experience, Computer Office Suite, Excel, if you have any Excel advanced skills like VLOOKUP or pivot tables, I would definitely include that. For CRM systems, you might have had experience using Salesforce. That can be helpful. ERP systems, Oracle, SAP, Great Plains, Lawson, Oracle, Peachtree, Platinum, Solomon, there's tons of them. Anything that you may have used in prior internships or roles can be added here. Planning, budgeting software, Hyperion, BizObjects, lots of different ones. Payroll, ADP, Pro Business, Ceridian, reporting, Crystal Reports, Tax, FastTax. These are just some examples. If you've used any of these in prior jobs, or even if you had an officer position in a student organization, you used one or two of these, include them because it will definitely make you stand out. This is a really important area, activities and interests. Companies want to see that you're involved in the community, that you're involved in student organizations. They want to see, this is an area to show your personality. Here you can include clubs or organizations, any honors and awards that you may have received, any leadership activities, other languages that you've spoken, other places that you've lived, sports teams, fraternity, sorority involvement, including any officer positions. These are all very, very positive things on your resume that showcase your personality. It can make you stand out versus other people. Here are just some examples of different organizations and things that you might want to get involved in. The ASWA, the American Society of Women Accountants, is a great organization in the Bay Area of women who are in the accounting profession. AICPA and CalCPA, two other great programs out here to get involved in. Now for your resume format types, typically you should have 4 different versions. The first version, of course, is the Microsoft Word formatted .docx version, which is typically what you create in Word. Many companies will ask for a PDF version. There's a website called www.freepdfconverter.com that'll actually let you convert a resume into a PDF, and it'll email it to you for free. Highly recommend using that. Sometimes when I send a resume over to someone, I'll include both my Word formatted resume and the PDF because companies are different in what format they would prefer. Every now and then, and this is kind of becoming outdated, but you never know what they're going to ask for. Some companies will want a plain text format document. This can be kind of confusing. When you pull the information over, it can come out slightly different than you expected, so you have to do a little bit of editing, and I'll show you guys that coming up next. The American Standard Code of Information Interchange is kind of the formatting that you're supposed to go by for this plain text document, but I just want you guys to be aware of what this could look like for if a recruiter or someone at a company asks for this version. So we'll go over that next. And an email version, this is going to be the same as your Microsoft Word formatted document, but it's going to be formatted for the length of line restrictions in emails. So if you are asked to copy and paste your resume into an email, sometimes it can come across different, not exactly how you originally wanted it to look, so you will probably have to do a little bit of editing. First we'll be covering, this is where we're going to actually cover this plain text area. This is basically if a recruiter asks you to, sometimes through their internal recruiting system, they'll ask you to paste your resume directly in there in this plain text format. This is how to do it. So when you have the Word document, basically you want to save as, but instead of a Word document, which is going to be .docx, you're going to save it as a .txt document, or it's also called plain text in the Save As screen. Then you're going to reopen the document using Notepad instead of Word, and it should come up exactly in the text format. From here, basically the fixed font tips. This is just basically to clean it up. You'll open it in Notepad, and sometimes it won't look how you wanted it to look. You can't use all the same formatting that you use in Word, so you're going to have to change things around a little bit. You want to use 10-point Courier. I think that's how you pronounce it, the name of the font. Here you can't use tab, which you probably use in your Word document, so you're going to use the space instead. You want to use uppercase instead of any bold, italic, or underline formatting. You can't use those formats in plain text document. Underline is something that you can, using uppercase is something you can use, so you basically just go back, delete the word, and do it all uppercase in capital letters. You can't use bullets, so one thing I tell people to use is the star key. You can use an underline or an equals instead of an underline area. That can be used to basically create a paragraph border. I'm going to show you an example of a formatted plain text document that I did of my old resume right here. Basically, as you can tell, I use the equal sign instead of a paragraph border at the top under my name. I use stars as bullets, and I capitalized experience and assurance, professional experience and assurance in full caps instead of having it in bold. So this makes it look a little bit cleaner, and this is much easier to copy and paste into an organization's website if that's what they're requesting. This is the second half of it. Again, you can see how I formatted. And this is just examples and ways to make it look a little bit cleaner. Not everyone will even know that they should be reformatting their plain text document, and I think if you do take the time to do that, I think it just shows that you're organized and can make you stand out compared to other people who might not have it formatted properly. How to stand out from the crowd. So basically, you have to think of your resume as your own marketing and branding tool. When a hiring manager is looking at your resume and you have the exact same experience or background as 2 other candidates, you want to stand out. You want to make it short and to the point. Instead of having short bullets, try to combine them. So you could make 2 into 1 or 3 into 1. Again, cut out simple words that you don't need. They don't have to be full sentences. If you're applying for a specific job, this is a great thing to do. Print out the job description, highlight the key phrases of what they're looking for in the job, and you can actually tailor your resume to respond to that exact job description. So if they're asking for experience in a certain few accounting pronouncements, and you've actually had experience with one of your internships on these, add them to your resume. It's you know, you're targeting that job description. If you can change your resume around to make it match what they're looking for, you're going to have a much higher chance of actually getting the job. Be interesting. Use your activities and interests to show your personality. This is another way also to showcase who you are as a person, and especially a lot of the accounting firms, they want people who have personalities and want to get involved in the firms and have outside interests. This is a great area of your resume to show that. Once you've put it together, time to review. You want to ensure that you have consistent grammar, past or present verb tense in the right areas, punctuation, full stop ends, no repeating verbs. You don't want to use responsible for. That's just kind of one of those little grouping of words that recruiters just don't like to see. Avoid weak verbs. Don't use to be, to do, to work. Try to use better words and not repeat the verbs throughout your resume. Again, visually pleasing. This is, you're marketing yourself. You want to make it look good. You want it to be one page. You want all the tabs in alignment. You want proper capitalization, proper spacing, paragraph breaks, and font size. Again, only use 2 to 3 different fonts and font sizes. You want to include all dates and months. You don't want to show any gaps. If you have any gaps, the recruiter who's working with you is going to ask you immediately. If you don't want to include that on your resume, why you might have a gap, you definitely be prepared to answer that question. And again, proofread over and over again. Get as many people as you possibly can to look over and give you advice. Friends, parents, peers, career counselors, career service departments. If you really want, you can hire a career counselor or professional resume writer. I know most colleges have their own career services department. When I was in Santa Barbara, I went to UCSB, we had a great career services place where you could go and talk with people and they would just go over your resume and give you basic advice. That was very, very helpful. Some advice on what not to put on your resume. Unnecessary details about your life, your work responsibilities as a lifeguard in high school. You definitely do not need that. You only want your college experiences. Or if you've been in the workforce for 5 more years, you only want your post-college experiences. Salary expectations. You definitely do not want to have anything like that on your resume. Salary isn't something that should be spoken about until you get to the offer phase. If you do want an idea of current salary ideas, there is a great guide by Robert Half Finance. That's actually the website's on this slide. No lies. This can definitely cost you your job. You want to be as honest and truthful as possible. Things that were once labeled confidential. I know that when I was in Big Four at PricewaterhouseCoopers, there were certain things that were very private that I wasn't allowed to openly discuss. I would not put any of that on my resume. If you did have time at the Big Four or any of the regional accounting firms in general, you are allowed to list your clients, but you can't say exactly what you did for those clients. If you were fired from a job, you definitely do not want to put that that's something that you can discuss in the interview, but you do not want to actually put that on your resume. References available upon request and your objective. Again, these are things that just take up space. You really do not need these at all. Too much information, it won't get read. It takes any kind of recruiter, whether we are internal or external, we literally do take about 30 seconds to look over a resume. You want to make it short and as to the point as possible. You want to include only the most important information that you have. Basically, with any bullet point, you have to ask yourself, does this add value to my candidacy? If it doesn't, eliminate the information and recast it in more meaningful terms. Distribution, less is more. Reapplying to the same company or posting your resume online on all available job boards can actually backfire. You definitely want to conduct a targeted job search. I would say you always want to either use a recruiter or a friend of a friend within the company to submit your resume rather than just applying online. You'll have a much better chance of getting an interview. While each version of a resume should not be exactly identical, any major discrepancies or completely different versions can be a red flag. Again, it's a small world. Resumes get passed around all the time. You want to keep it as consistent as possible. Also, you have to remember, if you post your resume to a job board, most job boards won't automatically take down your resume after you've stopped looking. So it's definitely up to you to keep tabs on all the versions of your resumes that you've posted. Make sure you take them down once you have a new job. Now here we're going to briefly go over your cover letter. We're not going to go into this too much since this is mainly focused on your resume, but here are some little tips that you can use going forward. Usually this is going to be the first thing the hiring manager sees. You want to make it specific to the actual job. You do not want to repeat any information that is found in your resume, and you want to address it to the specific hiring manager. Sometimes you can actually find the hiring manager by looking on LinkedIn. You can do a search for the position at the company, and you can actually find that person. And internal recruiters actually really appreciate that you spend a little bit of your time not only researching the company, but finding out who is in charge of hiring. You want to use this cover letter to demonstrate your knowledge of the firm. You want to keep it brief, 2 to 3 paragraphs for an email, 3 to 5 paragraphs in print. You want to address any concerns, and again, proofread as much as possible. Job boards, not all are created equal. You want to usually look for user-friendly features, read customer reviews, and be very cautious of sites that promise to help you find a job right away or allow others to quickly see your resume. That's not a good thing. If your approach is to post your resume on as many job boards as possible, it's best to keep your name and other identifying information private. to maybe have your first name but not your last name, or you can keep your name completely private. Here are some examples of some great ones. Indeed is I think Indeed is a great website. Glassdoor.com is an amazing website for getting information on companies, to finding out about their cultures, to actually also finding out about the interview processes at companies. I definitely recommend checking that out. Indeed is a great job board because it basically aggregates all of the open jobs at all the different companies in the Bay Area into this one website. And the companies don't actually have to post anything onto Indeed. They have to come up with some way where it just pulls all of them that are posted online. So it's an amazing tool, and I definitely highly recommend these websites. Some websites that have some great career advice. I always have candidates asking me if there's what I follow and how I research into new content. Glassdoor, as I mentioned, is an employee-generated content. It's anonymous. Here you can get company reviews, interview questions, salary information. Great tool. Indeed, again, this is an amazing website. Fins by the Wall Street Journal. This is a website and newsletter by the Wall Street Journal for finance jobs. Some great articles on there. Browse Career. This is a website and newsletter focused on the latest advice and ideas for getting a job. This is some great information on there. Vault. This has some awesome guides that you can actually purchase and download. I think they have some free ones. When I was in college and I was applying for internships, I remember purchasing and downloading one on the Big Four, and it really, really helped my interview. It had all the information on how the companies had grown, and all the people I interviewed with said I sounded, and I just really knew what was kind of going on with their companies, and I pulled all the information from this website, Vault. So highly recommend checking that out. If you're going to work with recruiters, whether they are agency recruiters like myself or internal recruiters, you need to let them know everything there is to know about you and what you're looking for in your career. They're not going to tell all the information directly to the potential employers, but you want to be honest with them so you can make sure that they can help you find a good fit. You want to make sure when you chat with them that everything is going to be extremely confidential. Usually recruiters work with managers and people that actually also work underneath them. So you want to make sure that they're not going to tell anyone in your work environment that you're looking for new jobs. That's just a big no-no. Before you talk with recruiters, you also want to do a background check on them. Just kind of ask around and see who they're friends with on LinkedIn. Make sure that they've worked with good companies and they're private. You want to start the relationship with recruiters before you're actively looking so they can inform you of relevant openings. Recruiters can be the best tools that you can have. If you let them know exactly what you're looking for in your career, they can keep you in mind for certain things as they come up. Social media resources, again, as you guys probably know, social media is huge nowadays. LinkedIn is the best resource for finding new jobs and for having recruiters reach out to you. You want to make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date with your latest resume information. Companies and internal recruiters will look at your LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter accounts, so highly recommend making sure you keep certain things private and you know what to keep available for your public profile. These are also great tools to check out for companies that you're interviewing at, so you can see kind of the photos and different things that they participate in and kind of get an idea of the culture of the company. Networking. We're just going to cover a little bit of the importance of networking throughout your career. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. Connections and networking is one of the most important things in your career. More business decisions occur over lunch and dinner than any other time, yet no MBA courses are given on the subject. This is a great quote that is extremely true that I've seen throughout my career in recruitment. The way of the world is meeting people through other people. It's always important to keep up with your network, to ask for mentors and ask for help and advice for people who are in the positions that you eventually want in your career. People typically want to help others, so if you reach out to people, typically they'll want to help. Networking event advice. Don't go in cold to networking meetings. Make sure you've done your research beforehand so you know what to expect, what companies and what people will be there. This is a little tip. Once you meet someone and get their business card, you can write on the back of the card things that you guys talked about. You can also refer back to these business cards and thank you notes, and it helps you remember names. I always do that when I go to any networking event. This is also an amazing career book that I think is the #1 career book out there. what color is your parachute? This can apply not just for accounting people, but anyone who is kind of trying to figure out what career path they want. Very, very helpful. I highly recommend. And that is it. Thank you for listening to me today. We'll now open up the panel for any questions that you guys may have.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. This is fantastic, by the way, and we do have quite a few questions. I just wanted to list a major takeaway that I took from this. I mean, first of all, it's a marketing tool, and it's an opportunity to stand out. And when you apply to a job, especially at a popular company, you unfortunately or fortunately have a lot of competition. So don't miss an opportunity to stand out by not getting this right. And the other question, Sarah, I had is, was that MC Hammer about 4 slides back?
Yes, it was.
That's great.
Yeah, he's amazing. I was like, I have to add that.
I love it. You talked about job boards. I wanted to throw this out there. I worked at Monster.com for 7 years, and job boards are kind of my thing. And I always advise people to go to Indeed.com. I think it's a fantastic website. And I'll give you a little trick about job boards. Number one, don't over-apply. You are exactly right. College Frog is a job board, right? It's for accounting students to apply to accounting jobs. And we go through and kind of quality assurance the different job boards and posting, and we found a candidate yesterday who has applied to, we think, every single job in College Frog. And we know him by name, and we talk about him in the office, and he's applied to over 800 jobs. So I don't think he's interested in living in every city in the country, but he decided that would be his strategy. So people, the recruiters can kind of pick up on that if you're applying to every job at every firm.
Definitely.
And the other thing is, use job boards as not just a way to apply, but as a resource to find out about job openings. So, when I worked at Monster.com, I found my job on Monster. And I did apply on the website, but I picked up the phone and found the hiring manager and called in and actually talked my way into an interview. People like assertiveness. They like go-getters. And especially in accounting, where there's a predominance towards, I think, people being introverted, when a recruiter sees an assertive but yet polite person that calls in and requests an interview, I found more often than not people are pretty happy to go ahead and schedule that interview. So use jobs on all these boards, whether it's College Frog or Indeed, as a source of potential job opportunities for you, and don't stop at just applying. Go get after it and be assertive and take initiative and apply. So, Sarah, I've got a couple questions for you, and then we're going to go into the audience. If you apply on a website, should you attach a cover letter? What's the best practice there?
Yes. I know out here now, JobVite has, I think, become one of the most popular websites that internal recruiters are using. And you can actually apply using your LinkedIn profile, which is interesting. I recommend putting as much information as you can. So I recommend putting your LinkedIn profile, including a cover letter. I just think it makes you stand out.
And going back to what you said earlier, Sarah, make sure you customize it for the job that you're applying to, right?
Yes, and for the job and the company.
Fantastic. So keep
kind of a too long, 2 to 3 paragraphs, a few sentences in each one. So it shouldn't take you too long to tailor it for each company or job. Nothing too over the top.
So 2 to 3 paragraphs, no more, and just a couple of sentences per paragraph?
Exactly.
Awesome, awesome. Okay. Can a resume be too short?
No. Again, you want to try and fill up one page. I think visually that looks better. There's all kinds of things that you can include if you are missing things on there. If any kind of organizations that you were a part of, any kind of anything outside of work or hobbies or interests that you have or travel experiences you can use to fill out some of that space.
Makes sense. So we have a student who's asking, what about related experience? Actually, no. I have extensive experience. You know what? Sorry, I'm backing up. I lost my question. I'm sorry.
So this one,
Okay,
if you have extensive education and experience outside of accounting, how would
you
you
found
best
it.
show a recruiter those transferable skills and accomplishments?
There you go.
You definitely want to include all of that in your resume. A lot of people, have completely different careers and then go into accounting. Um, you don't want to put too much of it. You only want to use bullet points and tie it into things that can be helpful for a career in accounting. So maybe you have some management experience. Some people have, completely different backgrounds, maybe a bioscience background. But if you have management experience, like that is, no matter what career path you're on, that is going to be an awesome skill set to have. So that's the kind of thing that you want to show and use. And again, it's all about picking out those transferable skills that you can use from your prior career into your accounting career. But you don't want to focus on that. You want to try and focus on the accounting work you have done, and maybe you even touched a certain little accounting area while you were in bioscience. If you can add that, that just helps.
Sarah, if you have experience in an industry for a while, should you skip the activities and interest sections?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Yeah, if you're experienced, so if you've been in the industry for a while and you're not a college student, should you skip putting the activities and interests on your resume?
No, I think you should always put a little bit of it. I think it just showcases your personality and it's something to talk about in an interview. You might not want to have it as a long section as maybe if you're just graduating college, but it's always good to put it. If you do have a lot of experience, it's totally okay to have a 2 or 3 page resume. Again, you just really want to be showcasing your relevant experience rather than things that might not be relevant anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. So can you talk just I know we're talking about the resume, but I've seen a few questions about just interview prep, and I know you could do an entire webinar on just interview prep, but like, can you give us 1 or 2 top things to be thinking about as you're walking into an on-campus interview? Most people on this call are going to be on campus interviews like next week.
Definitely. Best piece of advice, I have a certain rule, 60-40. So you want to make sure that the person interviewing you is asking questions 60% of the time, and you're asking questions about the company 40% of the time. That is something that is huge. A lot of people do not realize that they need to be actively asking relevant questions to the person who's interviewing them. That is very, very important. They'll ask you, do you have any questions? And sometimes people just they don't know that they should, have that stuff prepared ahead of time. That's definitely something to do research on before you go into an interview. And I actually have I have another slideshow on all that kind of stuff that I can send over to you guys if that's helpful. I would say the number one thing is just to prepare and to have all those questions that are typically asked and to have all of your answers prepared ahead of time.
I think that's phenomenal advice. And have a plan, have your questions. What the questions are going to be. Start thinking them through. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. And like you said, we could do a whole session just on that alone. Maybe we should. I have a question that a student is asking about professional resume writers and asking your opinion if that is worth the money.
I honestly don't think so. As a recruiter, anyone I'm working with, I'm always helping people with their resumes. If you do want to use one, make sure that they're focused on accounting and finance. A sales resume is going to be 100% different from an accounting and finance resume, but I'm pretty sure you can do it on your own. It might take a few hours of putting it together, but you should be able to use this guide as a general use to basically come up with your own. I don't think that you really need to pay someone to do it.
I'll tell you what, I totally agree with Sarah. The presentation she's just given you, it is follow that, and you will have a phenomenal resume document you can share with employers. Save your money. Sarah, somebody was saying that they lost connection when you were talking about references, and so she wanted to know, do you include specific references on a separate page? I know that you've covered this. Do you mind just revisiting that very quickly?
Definitely. So I don't think that you need to put the line on the bottom of your resume that references are available upon request. I think that's a waste of space. But I do think that throughout your career, I think you need to have references prepared. Typically, when people go in for an interview, I tell them to bring a printout of 3 to 4 references, and that can range from people who you actually managed, people who managed you. You want all of your references to be people that you've worked with, maybe, or had an internship with, or even a college professor, or like someone that you were in, maybe you were in a sorority and the president of your sorority could be one of your references. You want to have it prepared for the interview, but you don't need to include it with your resume.
Good piece of advice. You mentioned cover letters, and they go hand in hand with resumes. I did see a couple questions about that. You've given us a good format, 2 to 3 paragraphs, couple of sentences per. One of our students wants to know, can you give us an idea of what it should sound like? Meaning, what is the flavor that we're putting in there?
Basically, you're using your cover letter to cover something or anything that you may have left out of your resume. So this is going to be typically the first thing an employer sees. You want to target the job and say why, maybe in the first paragraph list maybe 2 to 3 things that make you a great match for the role. If it's an entry-level accounting position, you had an internship in the same group at a different firm. You've had an officer position which gave you communication skills and teamwork skills that'll be applicable for the job. Pick out a few things from your past that make you a good fit for the actual job description. That's where you really tailor it. And then you maybe want to include something that makes you stand out, or, if you haven't been working for a few years, that's something to address. You want to address it for the specific hiring manager and demonstrate your knowledge of the firm. Maybe put a sentence or 2 in there about how you read something in the news recently about the recent growth and you'd love to have the chance to work with them. Yeah, again, 2 to 3 paragraphs, nothing too long. Definitely helps if you have the job description so you can tailor what was good about your past that'll fit for that role. Does that help?
I think it really does, and I'll probably get feedback over the questions, but that's exactly what I think they're looking for. Thanks. So what about related experience versus other experience? For example, I am both a waitress, okay, this is not me, obviously, and an assistant project manager. Should I leave out the waitress, the unrelated experience?
You could put it, no, you should include it. If it's something that you're doing part-time, I would leave it out, but if it's something that you're doing full-time, I would include it. You're building great communication skills as a waitress. That's not something to discount. I think you should include it.
Good stuff. I agree, by the way. Would you recommend talking about your relevant coursework on your resume?
If it's something that maybe you were a general business major rather than an accounting major, and you want to talk about the additional classes that you took in accounting to get, or a master's in accounting that you wanted to get in order to, follow up with the CPA later on, I would include that. Or maybe if you were, had just a different major like communications or bioscience, something different, and then you did accounting coursework, I would include it then and just include it under your degree in the education section. So if you took, sometimes people do additional online classes, I would always include that. I think it just makes it look like you have put more effort in to pursue your career path in accounting.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Andrew wants to know if I have extensive experience and education in another field, but I'm new to accounting. So he's experienced. He's not a recent college grad. He's experienced, but he's trying to transition to accounting.
Yeah.
What's the format best for a recruiter like you, Sarah?
Okay, so for that kind of situation, I would say use a functional resume, which is completely different from what we just spoke about in the presentation, which is a chronological resume. Functional resume, instead of having past experiences, you list things in terms of an area that you covered. So like you might have communication skill sets as one of your things instead of a job, and then you list all of your communications practice. Management skills, talk about different opportunities that you've had to manage people. And maybe something like you have to pick out like mainly 3 to 4 different functions that you can take from your prior career and apply it to accounting, and why you think you have potential to have a successful career in accounting based on your last career. You just have to pick out those 3 to 4 main things. Does that help? And then you give examples of how you've shown these different functions.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. I just put a note out to everybody. So Eileen Perry, who's on our call, is the membership chair for the ASWA. You mentioned this group earlier in the presentation, Sarah. She's in Silicon Valley.
Awesome.
So if anyone's in the Bay Area and wants to learn more about ASWA, please reach out to Eileen. I sent you her email address. Sarah, so ton of questions, but you answered them all, so that's fantastic news. I wanted to thank you so much, and before I kind of wrap things up, just wanted to see if you had any last thoughts on the topic today, resumes.
Basically, you just have to remember that you're in competition with many others that have the exact same background as you, and if you do your research and really market yourself properly and include all those things on your resume that make you stand out, you can have a much higher chance of getting a job. It's not just your resume, also it's, your interview skills and how you interview. There's a lot of preparation that really does go into a successful interview, and if you spend maybe a weekend preparing ahead of time and practicing your answers to specific questions and come up with some research that you've done on the firm you're interviewing with, you will have a much better chance of getting the job.
Sarah, this is great stuff. I was taking notes on it for my resume. I hope I don't have to polish off the resume, but in case I do, I will be using these notes. So thank you.
I also, if you guys want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I have the presentation up there, and I also have an interview workshop that I presented for the Cal CPA last night up on there, and you can download it straight from there. So I know I went really fast. Sorry about that.
Sarah, when they go to LinkedIn, they can just search for your name, Sarah Clifford?
Sarah Clifford Connor Group, and it should come up.
Great, everybody. That's Sarah Clifford with a C at Connor Group, C-O-N-O-R Group, and you should be able to find her there.
It's actually two N's, sorry, C-O-N-N-O-R.
Okay, I'm going to type this out into the little...
And my email's on here as well. If you guys have any further questions, I'm more than happy to help. Feel free to reach out whenever.
Sarah, give me that email address. It's actually not showing up on the screen, so give me that.
SarahLouiseClifford@gmail.com. Let me see if I can.
I can send it out to everybody in one.
Yep,
I just sent it out.
Cool.
Cool. So I just sent that out. Everybody, be sure to check out Sarah's profile, the information on her LinkedIn profile that she has. Clearly, you have a passion for helping people with this skill that not many people know how to do. And so, thank you for sharing that with us today, Sarah. We really appreciate your time and doing this.
Thanks for having me.
So just a quick housekeeping item before we wrap it up. So tomorrow we're talking about your career path, all right? What are the decisions you should be thinking about right now as you plan out your career path? And it's going to be a really great webinar. I hope that everybody can make it. Of course, you can register at Cal CPA, calcpa.meetthefirmsweek.com. Be sure and go there and register for any of the webinars. And if you haven't built that profile, please go ahead and do that. That is it for today. So I want to thank everybody for being a part of this. And if you have any comments or feedback, you can email me at jeff@collegefrog.com. I will be sending out the recording of this webinar tomorrow with a little follow-up email. So that's it. I hope everybody on the call has a wonderful afternoon and hope to hear from some more of you tomorrow and Friday as well. And for Sarah, thank you so much again. Everybody have a wonderful day and take care. Bye-bye.